Okay, for this video, we're going to value a biotech company. The analysis is a little bit different than for a non-biotech company. So we'll go through the different components of it. So the first thing we want to do, you want to see what indication, what disease area the company is researching. The reason I have a separate folder here for indications is, let's say, for example, you're looking at a company that's researching lung cancer. So eventually you might have two or three different companies in this space that you're looking at. Instead of keeping the information I'm about to show you, the patient size, the market size, in three different places, it's easier just to keep it here in one place. And this way you can just update it and have access to it in this one location. So let's look at a company called DBVT, which is researching a treatment for peanut allergy. So we'll go into our allergies folder. And here's the peanut allergy file. And so just to kind of keep track of the different companies in this area, so AIMT and DBVT are both researching peanut allergy. So two new terms, incidence and prevalence. The incidence is the rate or the number of people in a population that have this condition every year. So the new cases of the disease every year. Whereas prevalence is just the overall number of people or the rate that it occurs in a population. And so what you want to do is you want to estimate in each territory how many different people have this condition. So for the first candidate, we ask in peanut age 4 to 11, we have that 700,000 patients get treatment or have a peanut allergy. And so this number can come from a couple of different places. First, I would check the company's investor presentation, because sometimes they lay it out there. You can also check the company's 10K and 10Q filings, or you can use a third-party source, such as maybe some sort of health organization that puts out a research report on this disease, or WebMD or Wikipedia or any of those types of sources. But always just make sure to add comments and to put references to your sources so it's easy to go back and take a look at them. And then once you have the number of patients, you want to kind of guess how much the company might charge for this drug. So rarely does a company tell you before they start selling the drug or before they're it's approved and they're about to start selling. Rarely do they tell you what they think they might charge for it. It's nice when another company is already selling the drug on the market, so you can look to see how much they're charging and then guess what this company might charge based off of that. Or you might find an author that writes an article saying we think the company might charge this much. In this case, there's an organization called ICER, which is a nonprofit that looks at new treatments as they're coming out and kind of writes a review as to how much the company might charge for this. So they come up with a price of about $4,000 a year. So that's what we'll use here. And then you multiply the patient pool and then the price together and you get your total market size. One thing to mention, you usually won't see this, but it would be nice if we knew how many patients that actually have this indication are actually receiving treatment for it, because for a variety of reasons, whether they don't have insurance, if it's maybe a disease that isn't life-threatening, a lot of patients that have a disease don't get treatment for it. And so, obviously those are people that we're not going to be able to count as far as potential revenue. But again, that number is usually not provided to you. It's difficult. It can be difficult to find, and so absent that number, we just we'll go with the entire patient pool for our market size estimate. And so then down here we have the same calculation for the age group 1 to 3. And so management shows this separately, and so that's why we have these two separate calculations here. And then after you're done with one territory, you would then see, well, what other territories might this company sell their drug in? And this is usually something that's discussed as the company is running trials. They'll tell you we maybe plan on finding a partner to market it in Europe or in China or Japan, wherever. So based off of that information, you know which territories you should come up with an estimate for. So once you've done all of this for all your potential territories, and for this, we're just going to calculate the US sales estimate. So then we go into our DBVT file. So let's open up that file here. All right, so this first tab, the partnerships, here's where you want to list whether the company is owed or will be owed, any type of milestone payments or royalties. Depending on whether they own the drug, completely outright, whether they've licensed the drug from someone else, whether they're going to license the drug to someone else to have them sell it. So all of those things you need to look into. So an easy way to look for that, if you go into the company's filing, for a U.S. company, you would check either the 10Q or the 10K. DBVT is a French company, so the foreign companies, they file what's called a 20F. And this is where you can find the information that you would normally find in a 10K. So you go into the 20F and just do a search for the word royalty or royalties, and down a couple instances, let's see here. So on page 76, we see a co-ownership agreement. And so what this agreement tells you is that in December of 2008, they actually licensed this peanut allergy drug from these two institutions in France. And so when that happens, either they paid an upfront payment. In this case, it looks like they didn't. They sometimes agree to pay potential milestone payments based on regulatory or commercial milestones. So in this case, it looks like they didn't promise to pay any of those, but they do usually promise some sort of royalty. And so it looks like DBVT will have to pay a royalty in the low single digits, depending on what sales are. So when you're gathering your partnership information, you see here we have no milestones that we need to account for, but we do need to account for this low single-digit royalty. So once you have all your partnership information researched for all the different drug candidates, we then come here into our peak sales tab. And so let's look here at this first group, the Viaskin peanut area. So this first table here, these are our sales estimates for Viaskin peanut age 4 to 11 in the US. All right, so we start with our probability of approval. So this number, you're going to base it off of the company's data so far, whether the drug works, whether it's safe, also whether there's any competitors that are already selling or also close behind. So all of this information is going to go into your decision as far as your probability of approval. And then this first row here, so this is assuming that the drug basically is not approved. So if we say that there's a 75% chance of approval, it means that there's a 25% chance that the drug is not approved, and so of course the market share in that case would be 0, which correlates to 0 sales. And then going down from there, you're just coming up with some market share estimates based off of, again, whether the drug works, is it safe, is there anything else out there, how expensive is it? So all of that information you're going to use to come up with your own market share estimates. And then your probability column here, so this is just what you think the likelihood of these market shares being reached is. So for example, there's a 10% chance that they will capture 20% market share. The market shares don't have to necessarily be in declining order, so that the lowest probability equates to the highest market share. you might have a drug where you think, it's going to be pretty much a binary outcome. Either the drug's going to be a complete miss or it's going to be a huge success, and in which case your probabilities would be higher, at the low end and the high end, and you would have your lower probabilities here in the middle. But you just basically want to be able to defend whatever market share and probability estimates you put down here. And then your patient pool, so this you get from the previous file where we looked at the number of patients. And then your price also comes from the previous file we looked at. And so to get your gross sales, you're just multiplying your number of patients treated times the price of the drug. Your gross to net reduction. So this is essentially the price that the company charges isn't necessarily the money that they get. So they usually offer some sort of rebates or discounts to third-party distributors. And sometimes the gross net reduction, it can be a lot, it could be 30%, sometimes it's much lower. So for right now, let's put a comment in. If you're not sure what to use, then we're just putting in that for right now, a 10% gross to net reduction is our guess. But once the company starts commercializing the drug, every earnings they usually tell you what the gross to net reduction was. And then another way you can kind of estimate that is to look at similar drugs and what their gross to net reductions are. So based off of this gross to net reduction, you come up with your net sales to the company. All right. So again, gross sales here, 560 million, but the company has to basically give up 10% of that. So they're netting 504 million. And then your final adjustment. So remember the royalty from the partnership tab, which we just looked at. They have to pay this low single-digit royalty. So our guess is a 5% royalty to these organizations, which further reduces the net sales to the company. So our adjusted net sales is this last column here. And what you can do if you think your tables are getting too long is you can roll these two figures into one. So instead of having a 10% and a 5% reduction there, you can just have a 15% reduction and just get rid of some of the columns. If you do that though, just make sure you put in comments explaining what that reduction, what the different components of that are. And then for our final cell here, the expected peak adjusted net sales. So this is going to be the sum product of our probabilities and our adjusted net sales. And so we expect that in the US for the peanut allergy treatment ages 4 to 11, we expect peak sales of 209 million. And it's always good to see what the consensus estimate is. Usually, the management or the Wall Street analysts will give you what their estimates are, so you can kind of gauge where you stand relative to what they put out. So you do the same calculation here for the other age group. So this is the peanut allergy ages 1 to 3. And then at the bottom here, you have your total. So this is in the US for Viaskin peanut. And so you see it's the sum of what we calculated above. And you would do the same procedure for the company's other indications. So they're looking into a treatment for milk allergy. Here's our estimate for that. And then they are looking into a treatment for egg allergy. And so this one is still in the preclinical phase, so we're not going to value this one. And so once you're done with this, then the next tab is our price target tab. So starting here at the top, this area you can look at our previous video where we talked about how to calculate the diluted market cap. So we're going to skip over that and come down here to our price target area. This is, like I said, it's a French company, so they report in euros. So to convert some of their financials into dollars, we have here what the exchange ratio was. And then what you want to show is you want to show for each territory how much each different drug candidate is going to do in sales and royalties. And so again, this number here, this is just coming from the previous tab, which we just looked at, the peak sales tab. This company, we're assuming they're going to commercialize on their own, so there are no royalty revenues. If a company, as we talked about previously on the partnership tab, if a company licenses their drug to another company to sell it for them, then you wouldn't have any sales figure here. You would just report the revenue that we expect this company to receive. But so here are our total revenue estimates. And then for the gross margin, usually the drugs are very cheap to produce. So, it's usually safe to assume 2 or 3% as far as the cost of goods sold. So the margin is usually very high. And so here's our gross profit for each of the candidates. And then our total gross profit is 601 million. And then from here, we need to take out expenses. So you have your R&D expenses. You then have your selling and marketing, which we can call commercialization. Now, to estimate this, sometimes the management will tell you, for example, we plan on hiring a sales force of 50 people or 200 people or something like that. So based off of how big you think the sales force will be, you can kind of come up with estimates as to how much they might spend. And so for this company, usually if it's an indication that has millions and millions of potential patients, like something like diabetes, the sales force is going to be obviously much, much bigger. But for a rare indication or something relatively small, then of course they don't need that many sales reps. So just put in comments, kind of explaining how you're coming up with your commercialization estimate. And then the general administrative expenses. So this, of course, you can just get from their filing. So then pre-tax income is just the gross profit minus our expenses. And then we just assume a 21% tax rate. So that brings us to net income of 314 million. And then since it's a biotech, it's much riskier than a non-biotech company. So we expect, of course, a higher return. So we're going to use a lower PE than we would for a non-biotech company. So we'll use a PE of 5. And you can read the the explanation as to how we choose the PE in the other file in Dropbox. So with the PE of 5 and net income of 314 million, we get total value of 1.6 billion. And then at this point, if the company has to pay out or could potentially be receiving regulatory or commercial milestones, then you would either add or subtract those here before we get down to our last step. But again, for this company, it's just the royalty that they have to pay out on net sales. So there's no adjustment to the value. So our total value we calculate is 1.6 billion. Our diluted market cap, which we talked about earlier, is 1 billion, and this gives us upside of 55%. And so then based off of a current price of $10.75, our price target is $16.69. And it's always a good idea with any type of company you evaluate just to kind of see where your estimate lies, relative to the consensus. So you can show here what the consensus price targets are. So you could see, let's say we come up with 1669. So we are basically a little bit higher than the consensus. Again, just because if you're way below or way above, it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It just, you need to have a reason for why your price target is what it is. So, and that's it. So that's how you value a biotech company.